This is the first time that I've actually heard this music without sitting down and watching the film. And I gotta tell you, this album breathes, to use a term that Pink Floyd went on to use in their very next album, right? It breathes. Okay. Part of that has to do with, first of all, the exoskeleton of the whole performance. The exoskeleton, and, I haven't given Roger Waters enough credit as a bassist in my videos. I've always said I'm a great fan of him, and I still would never put him in my top 10, maybe not even my top 20. But he is a very clever bassist who thinks symphonically. Remember, I've told you about that in the past, how George Martin said he endeavored to teach the Beatles to think symphonically. Think of what's within the song. And his bass work on both in the movie and on the album is very much there. But here's another thing, and I've gotten criticism when I gave a big ranking Nick Mason as one of my favorite drummers. I got a ton of you going, he's not the best drummer. I didn't say he was the best drummer, but he was ranked very high, and many of you didn't think he's that good. All right. I got a challenge for you now. All right. Now think about what I just said. Think symphonically. Next time, put this album on, put some headphones on, put some incense on, and have whatever it is that puts you in the zone, and listen to this album. Give yourself the time to listen to at least the 8 cuts. Because the second disc is almost bonus, and we'll talk about that as well. But the 8 cuts for the album proper, and tell me that Nick Mason isn't one of rock's best drummers. Is he in the top 10? I don't know. We've been discussing a lot of drummers over on Royce's house when I'm over there on his stream, right? And people have been, fielding this drummer, that drummer, over the months. And so I would have to put Mason behind some of those guys. But what an incredible drummer either way. And I'll tell you another thing that I like about him is the same thing that Paul McCartney liked about Denny Sewell when he first auditioned Denny Sewell for Wings. And Paul would later say, I like the way he went to his toms. Now, Denny Sewell said, when I went in there, I knew it was Paul McCartney. I knew he was used to drumming with Ringo, so I went to my toms, right? I'm going to tell you, Nick Mason's tom work in this film and his syncopation and his willingness to withdraw from the music. Now you're talking about, you're going to start understanding what I'm talking about, breathing, okay? And it goes from almost ethereal sounding to all of a sudden almost funk sound. Usually starting all these tracks, starting with most of the time, David Gilmour's guitar changing it by going, and all of a sudden, Mason's right there, okay? So you hear a lot of that throughout the whole album. And then it's also the fact that most of these tracks are long. You get a Pompeii intro, which is a heartbeat and effects, and it blends into Echoes Part 1. And then the last song on side 1, if you're buying this LP, is Careful with That Axe Eugene. Side 2, or side B, they're calling it, A Saucer Full of Secrets, Set the Controls for The Heart of the Sun. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, as well as several of these songs. And then side C, that's the last, just those two songs on side B. Side C is One of These Days, then Mademoiselle Nebs, All right. The shortest song on the album, I believe, except for the intro. And of course, Echoes, Part 2. And what a wonderful way, because basically you've got Echoes with a prelude to it twice on the album, and both versions are worth listening to. Now, side D is kind of the bonus material. All right. Side D has careful with that Axe Eugene and an alternative mix and a saucer full of secrets unedited. Okay. And there's different times and everything. So they've been really thorough about this. Now, it's interesting here. I just got this article. It says the recently released soundtrack to the band's 1992 concert film, Pink Floyd at Pompeii, see what they've done there? Tops the UK chart this week, making it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band's 7th UK #1 hit album. Do you know? Not even Dark Side of the Moon was a #1 UK Pink Floyd hit album. I think it got to #2 in the UK. So you look at these pieces on the album. You've got, look at this. I say, the album has time to breathe. You've got, let me make sure here. Yeah. Echoes 1 and 2 equals up to 25 plus minutes in length with the special edit. And here's the other thing. My digital Apple version of this album has yet another edit of Echoes. Really nice, shortened, radio friendly, much shorter and everything. Wonderfully done. And yet, I guess I'm not going to get that on vinyl or on CD. I checked. That's not being offered on physical copies. So there's a bonus for you to go digital and to go to a stream. At least with Apple, that's how they've released it. Maybe others in there. But you've got a half hour devoted on the album to one piece of music, and certainly 25 plus minutes devoted there live at Pompeii for that purpose, doing it. And how they did a lot of their stuff is they would perform them in sections and then would through editing and everything. So it's not the pure performance. They're actually performing. But this movement will do, then we'll do that movement, and then we'll just bring it on in with the tape. We know how to, to bring all of that in. Maybe we'll put a segment in here of the band at wherever, Abbey Road, recording us and them. And then it goes back. But that's how they did it. I looked it up. All right. So it's not just like, this is it. This is the performance, and they just caught us on camera. Okay, so if you think about it along those lines, this was very meticulously done, wasn't it? Quite purposeful. Nothing that's presented here is presented as a B song. They're all to be considered, and with the exception of Mademoiselle, whatever it is, I never cared for that. I understand the artistic bent, give the dog a bone, but that's the one weak cut, but it's very, very quick. And if you're in the mood, it does set up echoes. It does set up echoes, right? But if there is a warble to this album, I think it's right there. But you've got set the controls for the Heart of the Sun, 10 minutes and 29 seconds. A Saucer Full of Secrets. You've got two versions. One is 10 minutes and 10 seconds. The other is 12 minutes and 45 seconds, damn near 13 seconds. Careful with that Axe Eugene. You have two different versions, and this is probably the most reasonably length song on the album, at the long version being 6 minutes and 38 seconds, the short version coming in at 6:03. 6 minutes. All of these songs are set, the song list order all carries you on a journey here. I was even thinking to myself, what if we put Saucer Full of Secrets here and flip that with that? No, Echoes has to start where it is. And each song creates a different mood that brings you back to Echoes, right? And the song being Echoes, you would almost have to have an artistic impression of an album that contains echoes to have the echo version, right? Well, we have echoes, and then we have the echo of the echoes version too, right? So very artistic. I love that. Set the Control of the Heart of the Sun. I did want to bring this up, and then I'm going to go get in there and start talking with you folks. Set the Control for the Heart of the Sun is such a wonderful piece of music to have in here. And it is the only Pink Floyd song that is by either partially or whatever. It's basically Roger Waters' song. But, Pink Floyd had this thing where people would write their own pieces. This is the only song that was written by all 5 members of Pink Floyd, right? Syd Barrett helped develop this piece originally. Of course, David Gilmour had already been brought in to kind of replace, Barrett, and he had his part. Some of the best drumming from Nick Mason is on this song. Every single member of Pink Floyd wrote this song. So, wow.